Hi, have it ever happened to you that while watching a book review on YouTube or reading it somewhere else, you thought to yourself, gosh, wouldn't it be so much better if I didn't know which book is being reviewed? Well, it might not have happened yet, but today we're going to try just that. I'm going to review a book without telling you which book it is. Your task is twofold. If you know which book I'm talking about, leave a comment as soon as possible. The first person to leave a comment like that will be featured in the next video. Although make sure not to edit your comment because edited comments will not count. If you don't know which book I'm talking about, then maybe you haven't read it. And now you have the benefit of deciding whether you want to read it or not without any preconceptions based on its name or maybe the author and stuff like that. So you're a clean slate, you can just hear the review and decide whether or not you want to read it. To make the job a little bit easier, I'm going to say that the book is either from fantasy or science fiction genre. Now let's talk about the book. In the broadest terms, I think the book is what would have happened if the Lord of the Rings met Saving Private Ryan and they had babies. Those babies also have some traits not directly attributable to those two parents. So you could also feel some phallic imagery from Alien, biblical allusions, philosophical ruminations. On top of that, you have definite traces of Freudian psychology. And lastly, the whole plot is kind of wrapped around a few chapters from a history textbook. So that weird mixture is what I think about this book. Now, with that picture in mind, what did I like and what did I not like about this book? Well, what I did like for sure is how different was the child from one of its parents. So if you compare this book to The Lord of the Rings, it's very different even though this genre is very similar. I think it's truly a new word. Well, I have to say it now. It's a fantasy book, okay? I do think that this gritty, unforgiving world is very fresh. It feels very unusual for the fantasy genre and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Although, full disclosure, I'm not a huge fantasy fan, so I'm not as much of a connoisseur as some other people. So maybe for some other people it's not that novel, but I thought it was good. Second, I really liked how the book basically reinterpreted some medieval events, wrapping those historical events in a fantasy envelope really made the whole thing feel very grounded, very believable, and very gripping, I would say. The third thing that I generally liked was the prose. Sometimes it verged on the edge of being pompous and overblown, too flowery, but for the most part, I thought it was beautiful. I thought the book was well written, although sometimes the author gets a little bit repetitive with certain elements, especially battle descriptions towards the end of the book. Now to the things that I didn't like. First, one of the main characters of the book is extremely insufferably obnoxious. It's just a male version of a Mary Sue. He is just too much. I'm not sure if it's on purpose, whether the author wanted us to root for him or against him, but it was just insufferable. For example, this character has some special training and he's supposed to be able to read human emotions from observing their face. So far, so good. But it goes so much beyond that it's just ridiculous. So he doesn't just read your emotions, he reads your thoughts, and not just, oh, I know that you're thinking about a donut right now. No, it would be bad enough. But what he does instead is more like, I know that you think that you're thinking about a donut right now, but actually this is just an expression of your childhood suppressed attraction to objects with holes in them, and that stems from your rejection from your mother. And because of that, you're so vulnerable, and I'm gonna say this word to you and you're gonna just fall apart and follow my lead because I'm so, penetrating in my analysis. This is just like so bad. I don't know, I hated it, okay? I hated it. The second thing that I hated is that, in my opinion, the book does not deliver on the promises that it makes. One of the huge intrigues, one of the huge questions of the book, a whole plot line, kind of a through line that goes through the whole book, is never resolved. And I know that there are sequels to this book. I don't know, there's 5 or 7 more books in those series. But from the reviews that I've read of those books, people also said that they felt cheated and that the payoff was not really worth the time that you invested into the series. So I think that is one big thing to keep in mind. One book I think is fine just for world building, just for the enjoyment of it, for the novelty of the take on the fantasy genre. I think it's worth reading, but don't expect to be fully satisfied. Just to give you a comparison of how bad it is, imagine that in The Lord of the Rings, the Saruman plotline was 2 times as important as it was, and then it was not resolved. Like, I think that would be reasonable. Or maybe, even worse, imagine that the Saruman plotline is resolved, but the Ring plotline is not. Yeah, maybe something like that. It was, I don't know, I thought it was pretty bad. So overall, I do recommend this book. Keep in mind it's very violent and ruthless, and if you're worried about some trigger warnings, you can basically be sure that this book will trigger you. But other than that, I thought it was good. I know that you still don't know which book I'm talking about, but hopefully the comment section is going to help you with that. Nevertheless, in the next video, I'm going to reveal it, so make sure to subscribe, click the like button, and blah blah blah. With that being said, bye for now and have a great rest of your day.